Welcome to Paint Secrets Revealed, how to paint a wall. In today's video we're going to show you the different tools and materials required to get the job done. We're going to go through some techniques, how to cut in, how to use a roller, and of course we're going to throw in some secret tips that only the professionals know. So let's get started. At this point of the process, you've picked out a colour, you've done a little sample pot, you're happy with the colour, so you've gone back to the paint store and you've got the right amount of paint for your particular project. In this video we picked up a 4-litre tin of quality low-sheen acrylic. We can't stress this enough, it needs to be a quality brand, quality paint. Now we use the low-sheen because on your wall if you get any marks or any stains, it's easily washed down just using a little bit of spray and wipe and a cloth. And you can also see we have a larger tin, empty tin, and this is going to be used to strain the paint. Now to open the tin, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can purchase yourself a little opening tool, only costs a few bucks, and you simply jimmy it under the seal of the paint lid, move it around, and then lift the lid up. Nice and easy. And the other method that you can use is by using a putty knife, every painter's best friend. So basically with the flat edge of the putty knife, just work it around similar to the opening tool until you've opened the lid. To paint the wall you're going to need two different brushes, the 50mm angled sash brush, which is used to cut in the walls, and we also have a small lining fitch for those hard to get places in the corners. You're also going to need a stirring stick, so I recommend just using a wooden stirring stick. Make sure it's smooth, don't want any splinters falling off into the paint tin, and just give it a bit of a stir. Make sure you get to the bottom, scrape along the bottom, mix it up nicely. Now this tin of paint has been pre-mixed at the paint store, but professionals never truly 100% trust it because bits of paint can actually dry on the lid and then fall back into the paint, creating lumps, and this is going to turn up on your wall. So what we need to do is strain the paint, and for this you're going to need a pair of stockings. Easy for the ladies, could be a little bit more awkward for the guys out there to get a pair, but you'll figure it out. And basically what we need to do is just stretch it out like this, and if you've got two people it's easy, just get one person to pour it in. But if you're doing it by yourself, a little bit trickier. So place the tin between your knees, stretch out the stocking, and then let it fall through. Now there's a good chance you're going to stuff this up, so make sure you've got that canvas drop sheet underneath the paint tin to catch any spills. And we do recommend always using the top quality canvas sheets. If you use an old bed sheet, you will find that the paint won't absorb as well, and it'll actually fall through to the surface below. And you want to make sure that the larger tin that you're straining the paint into is clean. If you don't have a larger tin, an empty tin, just use a bucket from cheap bucket will also do the job. And once it's fully strained, basically we're just going to bring the rubbish bucket over and transfer the stocking. It's done. Now with pre-mixed paint, sometimes you might find at the bottom of the tin there'll actually be the white of the colour will remain. So you want to colour match this, of course, so you want this with the other paint. So what we find is if you add just a quarter of a cup of water, we find that it increases the flow of the paint. Now this is obviously only for water-based paints. So you want to mix it up in the paint tin and then add it to the rest of the strained paint. Now use your brush to make sure you get all the paint out, scrape it into the larger tin, and then you want to give it one final stir. Now if you are using one of those stirring sticks with the holes in it, the paint plunger, just be careful because they're renowned for spitting paint back up into your face. So we recommend just using a stick, nice and easy. Once you're finished, brush off the paint. And now it's ready to go, so what we need to do is set up the roller tray. So here we have an example of two different types, cheaper version and obviously the more expensive metal version. For the metal roller tray you need to put the ripple board and hook it onto the edge, pointing down to the deeper end of the tray. For the cheaper plastic version the ripples are actually built in, so you simply just pour the paint into the bottom end there. So if you're only painting the one wall, we recommend using the cheaper version, but if you're going to paint your house, it's worth splurging on the metal version. It's a lot more stable, holds a lot more paint, and the ripple board's more effective. Always have your brush handy to wipe the lip of the tin that you're working from, and you want to pour some into the smaller tin. This is going to be a brushwork tin. Pour in about enough to cover 1/3 of your paint bristles. Now the paint's ready to go, so what we want to do is lightly sand the patches we filled previously. Please see our video how to prepare a wall for painting in our ebook to show you how to fill those patches. So you just want to make sure there's no raised edges, just a final sort of check before we get started. Now to roll the wall you need to purchase a roller sleeve, and we recommend the 11mm nap, which is the depth of the pile. Now this particular sleeve holds a lot of paint and produces an ultra smooth finish. If you're using a cheaper roller sleeve, we recommend washing it out in warm water and then leaving it to dry just to get rid of any of those little hairs that might be falling off. If you're using a premium roller sleeve, you won't need to do that. You'll also need to purchase a roller frame, and it's simply a matter of pushing the roller sleeve onto it. It can be a little bit tight towards the end, so you can actually put it on the ground and just slide it on, and it's ready to go. For a professional looking finish, you also want to purchase a rolling pole. Now the cheap way out is you can actually use the same rolling pole that you use to sand the walls, and basically just screws into the bottom of the rolling frame. This is ideal if you're just painting one wall, but if you're actually painting the house, more than one wall, we find that this pole is a little bit thin, a bit tough on the hands, and doesn't have the features of the adjustable rolling pole, which we're about to have a look at. So this pole is a bit thicker, easier on the hands, and obviously it is adjustable so you can get it right for your height and your arm reach. And you'll notice on the bottom there's a nice thick rubber grip, which is easy on the hands. This is the pole that all the professionals use, and the one that we recommend if you can afford it. The other handy feature that this rolling pole has is if you need to get into a tight corner, what you can do is actually remove the roller head using the quick trigger functionality. When you're painting, always keep your paintbrush in the paint tin, because if you leave it out for about 20 minutes, you'll find that the paintbrush has gone rock hard. You won't be able to use it. You'll have to wash it out in warm water to be able to use it again. Now in this example you can see that the handle has a bit of paint on it from the rim of the paint tin. Now to avoid this, all you need to do is just get a small piece of masking tape, place it against the top of the paint tin, and this will ensure that the handle remains dry. And of course if the handle's dry, it means your hands are dry and you're not going to get paint on your face or anywhere else where it's not supposed to be. Now there is a technique to loading your paintbrush. It's very scientific. We call it the tap-tap method. So what you want to do is put the brush in to about 1/3 of its bristle length. And you'll notice if you bring the paintbrush straight up, the paint's going to drip everywhere. So what you need to do is hold that paint in the bristles by tapping it on one side and then tapping it on the other, the old tap tap. Now if you find you put too much paint on the brush as well, no dramas, simply scrape it off on the top of the tin there till you got that 1/3 again. Also, you don't want to be cheap when it comes to putting paint on the brush. If you don't put enough on there, you're not going to get the coverage required, so always put at least that 1/3. Perfect. Now when you're rolling the wall, there are some common mistakes that are easily done. We're going to show you them and how to fix them. If you go down with a roller not quite horizontal, you'll find that you've got paint on the end. Now when you're painting the wall, this can create a thick edge, or what we call a train line. So you want to fix that up pretty quick. Just get yourself a dry brush and use it to mop up the end of the roller. Now if you get it on the other side, it's probably worse because it actually creates thicker lines. So you want to sort that out pretty quick, once again with a dry brush. But if you find that you're not able to get it all off, then the old trusty rag is your best friend. You'll notice on this roller as well that we've got a thick edge of paint, and that's because it hasn't been distributed using the ripple board. Now anytime that you need to leave your paint, if you're having a break or in between coats, what you need to do is stop the air supply from drying it out. So we simply recommend using an old bed sheet and covering it up, and that'll make sure you don't get a skin developing. Okay, it's time to start painting, and the first thing we need to do is paint the patches of cornice cement. So they're going to require 3 coats of paint, while the rest of the wall just requires 2. If you don't give them the 3 coats of paint, at the end you'll notice that they appear flatter in appearance than the rest of the wall. So to paint the patches, we're going to use the roller because we're going to get a smoother finish. So to load the roller, you just want to just dip it into the paint and then even it out on the ripple board. Once you have a roller full, it's time to roll across the patch. Pretty simple, but what you'll see and notice here is that the actual roll that you've done creates a thick edge, and we can't leave that. So basically in the vicinity, we'll paint a few more patches, and then we need to even it out. So you do this by lightly gripping the roller, just a light touch, and then as you get to the bottom and the top of your stroke, you just lift the roller up so it feathers out the paint. Now it's time to paint the wall, and this is done by first cutting in. So this is basically painting areas where the roller is unable to paint. So this is really important to have that angled brush. So we're going to have the shorter part of the bristles pointed towards the bottom, and the longer part of the bristles is what we use to make the straight line. And what you want to do is never start hard up against the line that you're cutting into. You want to start a few centimeters down below for that first stroke, and then on the second stroke you want to work the paint up to the straight line. Now corners can be a little bit tricky, but you can see using the tip of the brush there we can get in and create the straight line down. Now you will find that there's a thicker edge on the inside of the wall there, so what you do is just feather that out. That's that light stroke, just to make sure there's no sort of brush marks. Now cutting in is one of the hardest skills to learn, but we recommend you give it a go. You can tape up the adjoining wall that you don't want to paint, but you might find that the paint will actually seep underneath that masking tape, giving you that ragged edge. So we always recommend doing it freehand. If you do make a mistake and hit the adjoining wall, just have a wet rag handy and quickly wipe it off. Also make sure that you cut in around the power switches. Basically anywhere that the roller isn't able to reach, you want to cut in. Now professionals, because they're so fast with the way they work, they're able to cut in an entire wall, so across the top, down the sides, all the power switches, and then they're able to roll before that paint dries. And that's called the wet on wet principle. So the paint will flow together and the brushwork won't show up against the roller. But for people who are starting training for the first time, you recommend maybe cutting in 2 to 3 meters across the top and then starting your rolling. When you're loading the roller, make sure you keep that sleeve horizontal. Just dip it in and then work it through the roller using the ripple board. Never start rolling hard up against the adjoining wall. You want to start a few roller head lengths in and about the middle of the wall, and basically just roll up and all the way to the bottom in nice even strokes. When the roller has less paint, this is when you work it up against the adjacent wall, and basically you're trying to cover the brush strokes that you've used to cut in without touching the wall. So the key here is to have the capped end of the roller pointing towards the adjacent wall. And I do apologise for the camera work here, it's a bit dodgy. So the key to producing a nice smooth finish is after you've applied the paint, what you want to do is using a light stroke is basically go over the same rolling strokes that you just did, but just with a lighter pressure. So basically nice and firm with a smooth motion when you first begin, work your way back into the wet of the paint, and then once you've finished, just a nice light roller to basically create that smooth finish. Now we've created a train line here. This is what you want to look out for. This is what you want to avoid, and to basically fix any train lines that you identify, you want to use a dry roller and just roll up and down it, and that'll remove it. So once you've finished rolling the entire wall, all we need to do now is cut in the bottom edge and the wall has been completed. So you always, in painting, always work from the top down. So now it's time to take it easy, catch up on the cricket, and just wait till the paint dries. Just going to show you a close-up of one of the patches. So this particular patch here has had 2 coats of paint, and you can see that it's still flat, a little bit dull in appearance. So it needs that extra coat, that 3rd coat, to make it blend into the wall. Now the 2nd coat of paint, it's going to go on a lot easier. You're not going to need as much paint, and it's basically Groundhog Day. So exactly what you did in the 1st coat of paint, just repeat it for the 2nd coat of paint. Cut in at the top, down the side. Bob's your uncle, Mary's your aunt. Finish rolling the wall, and the final thing you need to do is cut in along the bottom and then remove the masking tape. So for more information about this whole process, we have an ebook available on Amazon and also available on our website at paintsecretsrevealed.com. We hope this video has been helpful for you. Please see our other videos as well, how to prepare a wall for painting and also how to clean out your paintbrush and roller trays when you're finished. Cheers.